Donald Trump indicting his political rivals and enemies, which we have been waiting for since the start of the administration. We are now in that chapter of that part of the administration. And in retrospect, in seeing how pathetic the indictments are, how weak they are, who they're being prosecuted by, in Donald Trump's hand-picked insta prosecutor with no prosecutor experience, Lindsey Halligan, who's now 2-0 and getting indictments from a grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia. What were we fearing? Bring it, as James Comey put. Let's go to trial. If this is the best that Donald Trump has, I don't think we should have been in fear about it at all, because all it does is show to the American people that this is nothing but a vindictive campaign, wasting our time and money, putting a improper shadow on top of people who have committed no crime. People, and the polls say it, are seeing through this. Maybe this is what we needed. Rather than just mean social media posts, maybe we needed to see front and center. I'm talking about the American people, the abuse that's being heaped on Democrats through the most corrupt Department of Justice of all time, led by Donald Trump. And now we have it. And I wanted to bring on a new contributor here on Legal AF, Kelly Hyman. You may recognize Kelly from being on CNN and other news channels doing legal commentary. She's a very excellent trial lawyer and lawyer in her own right, in mass tort litigation and other really complicated cases. And I thought with the Comey indictment and the Leticia James indictment and maybe the future Adam Schiff indictment, this would be a good time for Kelly and I to sort of do things together and then launch Kelly here on Legal AF. So let's bring her in. Kelly Hyman, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's so great to be here. How are you doing?
We're doing great. We actually had a video that's been lost to history. It's like the pilot of the original Star Trek, which nobody ever saw until they recycled it years later. We tried this last week when we said we did a whole thing about Comey maybe being indicted, and then as soon as we stopped recording, Comey got indicted. So we decided, let's try this again. Comey's indicted. Take two. Comey indicted. Leticia James. Take the plane up 5,000 feet. Give our audience your perspective of what you're seeing with the indictments, the judges, some new information that's come out about what the motion practice against these indictments is going to look like. Lay it on our audience.
So it all centers in Virginia. So Trump appointed a U.S. attorney, actually from Florida, interim, and brought charges against not only James Comey, but he's a former FBI head, but also Leticia James. So what are they charged with legally? So when we look at James Comey, he was charged with lying to Congress. And it all kind of stems back to almost 5 years ago when he was testifying in Congress about what he knew someone leaked to the press. And so that is the long and short of it, that they are saying in the indictment that he gave false statements. Now, we also have to talk about Leticia James. There is in the indictment that she committed bank fraud. These are serious allegations. Bank fraud, she could do up to 30 years in jail. And so what they're saying is that when she filled out a loan application, Leticia James, that she lied, that she put that this property that she purchased was going to be a second home, but in fact was a rental property. And so because of that, she got a lower interest rate and saved approximately, as of right now, $19,000. So she is being charged with that and also making a false statement in her mortgage application. Now, Leticia James has come out and denies the indictment and says that she is not fearful. She is fearless, and she is going to fight this case. And also, Comey is also going to be fighting the same case in Virginia.
Yeah, and I think both of them have done well in terms of a random selection of judges. Both pulled Biden appointees, Judge Nachmanoff for Comey, who was a former federal public defender, and Judge Jamar Walker, a Biden appointee, first openly gay African-American judge on the Virginia federal bench, who worked for 9 years in the Eastern District of Virginia prosecutor's office. Now, Lindsay Halligan might have figured out a way to not present all the evidence and get an indictment out of a grand jury. There's an old line about prosecutors could get an indictment against a ham sandwich if they wanted to. But the question is, would she ever be able on these charges to sustain a conviction through appeal? And the reason I say not on her dear life is because the major crimes prosecutor who looked at the case let it leak 72 hours before the indictment that she was not going to recommend bringing charges because there was no crime that had been committed. We know the evidence that a niece had the power of attorney and checked the boxes on these voluminous bank loan documents. The bank she borrowed from has already sold the loan to a second bank who obviously could not have been defrauded by anything that she said. And we're talking about making a jury believe that the Attorney General of New York, in order to save $500 a month or a little bit less than $18,000 over a 30-year mortgage, decided that she wanted to check the box to get a half a point or more off her mortgage rate. I just don't see it, especially when it's not even about, was this her first mortgage, her first home, or her second home? This is about, well, we know it's your second home, but we didn't know you were going to rent it out to other people. I mean, this is so attenuated. This is why no career prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia would agree to prosecute this case. None join Lindsay Halligan at the grand jury, and I'm sure none will be there when she goes in front of Judge Walker.
That's a really good point. And that's one of the reasons that she is Lindsay being the only person that signed the indictment as well. And that's going to be grounds that Comey is definitely going to bring up in whether a motion that she didn't have the power to bring this indictment as well. And we have to remember that Comey, they were running on a statute of limitations. What that means is they had only a certain amount of time to bring this case. And in fact, if it's determined that she didn't have the authority to do this, then the statute of limitations has run in that case. And so that could definitely be one of his arguments. Also, malicious prosecution, vindication, going after someone. And I can also see Leticia James doing that as well, malicious prosecution, and that he is going after her.
I think they have a side bet. If I know Abby Lowell and the lawyer Pat Fitzgerald for Comey, the Abby Lowell for Leticia James, I think they have a friendly side bet, sort of like sports teams. Like Abby's going to send a case of apple cider from upstate New York. And, Chicago pizza is on its way to Abby. Whoever gets their indictment dismissed first and fastest, because they're both, I think they're going to be, they're going to be doing the shadowing each other about strategy. It won't be exact. I think in the next 2 to 3 days, less than a week, we'll see 2 motions to dismiss being filed and a motion to disqualify Lindsay Halligan in parallel as soon as Leticia James gets arraigned. And if she can get her trial lined up with the trial of James Comey, that's actually to the advantage of the defense, because it only gives them 90 days or less, because that Comey trial is going to trial in Jan 5 of 2026. But that's advantage defense, is it not, Kelly? Because it puts the prosecution on the hook of having to get all their documents and all their Brady materials supplied to the defense within weeks.
That's very true. As they call it, the rocket docket. And so what that means is they're taking off and it's nonstop. As you said, the one trial is set in January. And I would assume the Leticia James trial is not going to be too much longer after that, maybe 2 weeks or something along those lines. But yeah, absolutely, they were hitting the ground running, and he is ready, Comey, ready to go to trial. And we can see from Leticia James' statement that she is also ready to go. But I think we also have to remember that these charges are serious charges, that the fact that they could spend potentially, if found guilty, multiple years in jail. As I said before, with the bank fraud, that's up to 30 years in jail. Not only that, but up to $1 million in penalties. I mean, these are serious times that they could spend in jail if
I don't.
found
Yeah,
out.
I agree, agreed. But I don't. on, let's just take selective prosecution for a moment, different from malicious prosecution, but all under the rubric of prosecutorial abuse. Selective prosecution, I want them to be able to show where in the Eastern District of Virginia they've ever prosecuted mortgage fraud based on this set of facts about a secondary home with rental income where she got a 0.6% off on the mortgage rate with no documents apparently and no witnesses that will support that she did anything wrong, let alone with the required mens rea or criminal mind required to get convicted.
Right. And she had to knowingly do this. I think that's really important when we look at it from the legal perspective and look about the elements of the charge. Like, she had to knowingly do this. I mean, we also look at Comey's charges as well. And he has to have, the intent, has to have that knowledge and willingness to do that. And I think that's really hard to prove. How are you going to prove that even if they did do it, how did they knowingly do it?
I think the witnesses at the trial, first of all, I think the indictment has a good shot at being dismissed in advance. One of the blueprints for this is going on right now in the Middle District of Tennessee with Abrego Garcia. I think they're on the 1 yard line. I think that indictment of Abrego Garcia in front of Judge Crenshaw is very, very close to being dismissed, because the way the judge framed his order in that case about actual and presumptive vindictiveness, he's already shifted the burden back to the government and has said that Abrego Garcia, for instance, has put forward enough evidence to carry his burden to show vindictive prosecution. It's now up to the defense to show why it's not vindictive. And I think a very similar thing will happen here. And the record for the government, for Comey and Leticia James, is terrible in terms of being able to defend itself against charges of vindictive prosecution or selective prosecution. I mean, Comey, for instance, you were being kind about the time problem. He testified September 5 of 2020 about events, about a prior testimony that he gave in 2017, about an event that happened in 2016. You got a 5-year statute of limitations. And his only response, unless we see something different in what's called a superseding indictment in the future, in the current indictment, the only thing, and you've seen the clips, I've seen the clips, the only thing that he said to Cruz in response to the question about a leak of Hillary Clinton, not even of Trump, to the Washington Post was, do you stand by your testimony in 2017 that you're not responsible or didn't authorize the leak? I stand by my testimony. It's going to be you've done this, impeachment, perjury. That's going to be very difficult. First of all, it's true. Andy McCabe, the number 2 at the FBI, is very public. He's been on the Midas Touch network. He's been with Mueller. She wrote. He's been on NBC and CNN. He said out loud, "There's only 2 people in the office that could authorize a leak, if you will, to a paper. James Comey and me, and I did it for Washington Post." I mean, you've got it's not even an empty chair. He's going to end up testifying for the defense at trials. So I just see that case as dead in the water. I'm not even sure it gets out of the starting blocks with Judge Nachmanoff. And we're going to have to see, you and I will probably get back together again after we see the arraignment of Leticia James. We shouldn't expect a perp walk. There hasn't been an arrest warrant issued. She's got an appearance ticket. So we expect, have you seen when the arraignment's going to be?
I think it's the 24th, I've heard. Don't hold me to that one. I think
sounds about right.
I think it's coming up very, very soon. But when we talk about the motions for, as I call it, vindictive prosecution, selective prosecution, I could see the main number 1 exhibit is Trump's posting on social media, that heard allegedly that message was supposed to be private, that it was not supposed to be made public. There's been news reports have come out that was a private message that went public about going after Comey, going after Leticia James. I've heard on outlets that in California, Schiff has hired counsel to represent him because he is also one of the people listed in that social media post by Trump.
A lot of them are hiring Abby Lowell, Lisa Cook, Board of Governors, Abby Lowell, Leticia James, Abby Lowell. You know, the issue you raised about this new reporting that Trump meant that to be a DM and not be posted, which makes a little bit more sense, also raises another problem, though. It opens a Pandora's box, because it sounds like then, if that's true, that he's trying to circumvent public records law and presidential records law by using social media DMs privately. They're not supposed to be private conversations like that are not ultimately presidential records. So once again, whether they're using Signal or WhatsApp or trying to use DMs on Truth Social, this is illegal, if you will, under presidential communications laws.
It's unbelievable that this is, going on. The idea, no one is supposed to be above the law, but it's the prosecution that brings the case has to prove the case and has to prove it, criminal case, beyond a reasonable doubt, and to go into an indictment knowing, as you pointed out, that not only that they can get a conviction, that it can be sustained on appeal as well. And so the idea that there's selective prosecution going on is disheartening, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll continue to follow it here on Legal AF. We got Kelly Hyman, brand new contributor, but not brand new to the law, been doing this a long time as a senior litigator and trial lawyer in her own firm in Florida, mass tort litigation and other types of complicated, complex litigation cases. It'll be great to have your insider view in the courtroom. That's one of the things that I think are the competitive advantage of those people on Legal AF that have been practicing lawyers, who have picked juries, who have argued in front of the appellate courts. And we try to bring that to our audience. So I think everyone here is going to be looking forward to seeing regular contributions from you, Kelly, here. And we're so happy to have you here briefing our audience.
Great to be here, and I look forward to it, and look forward to catching up with you next time when Leticia James appears for her arraignment of what's going on, motions that are going to be filed, and what's going to happen in the case.
Absolutely. You're on Legal AF YouTube. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button. That's what keeps us on the air. That's what keeps us kind of protected from the attacks of the Trump administration, which are happening every day. And come over to Legal AF Substack. If you know about Substack, you're going to love what we're doing on Legal AF. And if you don't know about Substack, come over and check us out. I'm doing 2 live reports a day, and sometimes I bring in commentators like Kelly and Katie Fang, and I just had Adam Klasfeld of All Rise News. Sometimes I do it on my own. We've got other writings. Well, hopefully we'll get Kelly to start writing for the Legal AF Substack, but now is the time. People say, how can we help you stay on the air and kind of keep this whole ecosystem up and running? And it's becoming a member of Legal AF Substack and becoming a paid member. I think it's $7 a month. And I promise we will overwhelm you with content on Legal AF Substack. So until our next time together, Kelly Hyman, Michael Popok for Legal AF. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.